She's so fine. Hell of a hell of a blows my mind. Hell of a hell of a lights my day.
What's good, guys? This story is coming out of Baltimore, and I want to thank my subscriber and friend Tiffany Ray for sending this to me. I've never heard this story before. Baltimore cop stashed 15-year-old stepson's body in wall, prosecutor says. This came out last night, or evening at 7:38, and it was updated at 9:16 Eastern Time. A Baltimore police officer is facing charges after prosecutors say the body of his teenage stepson was found secreted in a wall in his home, and he tried to steal a fellow officer's gun as authorities made the grisly discovery. The chaotic chain of events kicked off on Tuesday when prosecutors say Anne Arundel County police officers went to the home of Baltimore police officer Eric G. Banks Jr. to inquire about the whereabouts of his 15-year-old stepson, Dassan Jones. After first claiming the teen wasn't home, Banks gave the officers permission to search the house, the Baltimore Sun reports, citing court documents. Police then found the teenager's body stashed in a hole in the wall with a white cover leaning on it, on the top floor of the house, prosecutors wrote. Eric Banks Jr. was handcuffed and in the midst of being walked away from the scene when he is said to have begged to kiss his children. He requested that his handcuffs be adjusted and then made a clear attempt to snatch another officer's Glock 17 from the holster, prosecutors say. Eric Banks Jr. allegedly made statements that he is homicidal and suicidal at the scene. The officer recalled in charging documents that he stated multiple times, "You're going to have to end this," as we were wrestling over the firearm. A member of the police force for 3 years, Eric Banks Jr. was denied bail on yesterday, and has been deemed a suicide risk. He is charged with assault and resisting arrest and had already been suspended from the force prior to Tuesday's incident. His wife had sought a protective order last month to keep him away from herself, Dassan Jones, and their 2 other sons. Despite her complaint of emotional and mental abuse and her assertion that Eric Banks Jr. was in possession of 2 firearms, a judge denied her request for a protective order on June the 28th. The cause of death of Eric Banks Jr.'s 15-year-old stepson, Dassan Jones, is still under investigation. So far, prosecutors have accused Eric Banks Jr. only of hiding the teen's remains. He admits to officers that he moved his son's body from one location in the home and secreted it in another, Assistant State's Attorney Jason Miller said yesterday at the bail hearing. He has shown that he is not afraid to resort to violence. While the circumstances of Dassan Jones' death remains unclear, a neighbor who knew the teen remembered him fondly. In comment to the Sun, Stephanie Castagnera said she was left with the gut-wrenching sound of Dassan Jones' mother reacting to the news of her son's death. "That cry that I heard, I knew instinctually as a mom that something happened to her kids. I will never forget it. My heart is just broken." I'm going to go ahead and play 2 videos that go with this story.
New details in a disturbing case in Anne Arundel County. The teenage stepson of a Baltimore City police officer is found dead in a hole in a wall in the officer's house. WJZ is live tonight. Kelsey Kushner has the latest details. Kelsey.
Denise, well, these here are the charging documents in the case against Officer Eric Banks. And according to this report, officials say they found his 15-year-old stepson dead inside his house. A shocking discovery made inside this Curtis Bay home. New court documents show 15-year-old Dassan Jones, the stepson of a Baltimore City police officer, was found dead inside of a wall. Reports say his stepfather, 34-year-old Baltimore City officer Eric Banks Jr., consented to a search of the house after police were called there for a custody dispute involving the teen's mother. When officers reached the loft on the top floor, they say they saw a hole in the wall with a white cover leaning on it. Banks Banks allegedly told officers it was a gun safe, but when they checked, they found the body of the 15-year-old and immediately put Banks in handcuffs. Neighbors tell us off camera it's sad.
I heard the mom crying, and that cry that I heard, instinctually I knew something had happened to her kids.
Court documents say Banks pleaded to kiss his kids after being handcuffed, then tried to grab an officer's gun, telling the officer they would, quote, have to end this. Now, Banks is a 3-year vet with the Baltimore City Police Department, and we are told that he has since been suspended without pay. Reporting live at
Anne Arundel County Police say they're still waiting for autopsy results before moving forward in this case. As far as the assault charges, bail denied today for City Officer Eric Banks. Court papers reveal a mother's intuition led to the discovery of her 15-year-old unresponsive son inside the home of his stepfather, Baltimore officer Eric Banks. The mother told Anne Arundel County Police when she couldn't reach Dassan Jones by phone, she believed he was being held against his will. Banks initially told police his stepson wasn't there and had left his packed bags at a back door. Police charging documents indicate Banks gave police permission to search his home. In a loft on the top floor, officers saw a hole in the wall with a white cover. Banks advised it was his gun safe. Officers looked inside and saw a body, later identified as Jones. An autopsy is underway. Jones' friend, Kayla Wright, tells us she's heartbroken. She recalls Dassan as bright, funny, and full of energy.
I know that he wanted to be a doctor and he played violin, and so I was really sad that I had lost someone that I was close with.
According to police charging documents, after police placed Banks in handcuffs, Banks attempted to flee. First, he asked if he could kiss his kids. Court papers indicate there were 2 other children in the house. Then, according to police, he grabbed my departmentally issued Glock by the handle and flipped the hood down to my holster, in a clear attempt to disarm me. Banks stated multiple times, "You're gonna have to end this." Back on June 25th, Banks' wife sought a protective order complaining she suffered from emotional and mental abuse and that he was stalking her. The wife told police Banks had 2 weapons, one for work and one for leisure.
I hope his family finally finds peace for this, because I know how hard it is for them right now, and I know that his mom is really, really, really difficult to try to process.
Banks is seeking a preliminary hearing on the assault charges. No trial date has been set. The Baltimore City Police Commissioner says Banks is already on suspension for another undisclosed matter. Reporting live from Curtis Bay, David Collins, WBAL TV 11.
Now I want to talk about Dassan Jones for a moment. 15-year-old found dead in Curtis Bay home was a magnet student who was always so nice to everybody. This is coming via the Baltimore Sun this morning. That's a picture of Dassan Jones. Dassan Jones, a magnet student at Glen Burnie High School and an accomplished violin player, was always so nice to everybody. That's what his friend Erica DiDonato said about the 15-year-old who was found dead in the home of his stepfather, a Baltimore police officer in Curtis Bay, on Tuesday. Erica said she had known Dassan Jones since they both attended Solly Elementary School in Glen Burnie. They were also classmates at George Fox Middle School and would hang out in class or around school until the pandemic hit when they were in 8th grade. If you needed help with an assignment or something, he would always be willing to help out. When he would come into class, I remember he would always be smiling and coming over to me and the friends I sat with and making jokes, she said. A letter from Glen Burnie High School Principal Scott McGuire was sent yesterday, to families at the school informing them of Dassan Jones' death. His stepfather, Eric G. Banks Jr., faces charges of assault and resisting arrest, stemming from an attempt to grab the gun of an Anne Arundel County police officer responding to the scene. The cause of Dassan's death is still under investigation, police say. In the letter, Dassan Jones was described as a quiet student. He had just finished his freshman year at Glen Burnie's Biomedical Allied Health Program, which is a magnet program, and was excited by the possibilities it offered, according to Principal Scott McGuire. He was articulate, proactive, and responsible. He took great pride in his academics and enjoyed being in the BMAH program, the letter said. Jones was also a violin player and earned a seat on the all-county orchestra in 8th grade, according to the letter. Erica Graham became friends with Dassan Jones while they were in middle school. I wanted him to come to Northeast, but he said the reason why he wants to go to Glen Burnie is because of the nursing program. He wanted to become a nurse, said Erica, a 15-year-old rising sophomore at Northeast. Erica said they never got the chance to hang out outside of school, but they would FaceTime. Dassan Jones even taught her how to cook French toast and crepes while they were on FaceTime together. He was a very loyal friend. He had my back on things, she said. A GoFundMe for Dassan Jones' family was started Wednesday by someone who wrote she also went to school with him. Almost $2,400 had been raised as of yesterday afternoon. He had such a good soul, the description read, saying the money will be used for funeral expenses and extra cash for his family. The beneficiary of the fundraiser is Dassan Jones' mother. Scott McGuire wrote in the letter that the school has been in touch with Jones' family to offer support. There are also resources for students impacted by Dassan Jones' death. Even though school is out for the summer, I want to make sure you know that our school counselors and other members of the student services team are available to speak with any student who have a need to talk about their feelings and the impact of Dassan's death, the letter said. Another look at the GoFundMe this morning. As of 10:55 a.m., $6,100 has been raised, with the goal of $10,000. It just simply states, "Hi, my name is Kayla. I went to school with Dassan. He had such a good soul, and it is such a tragedy that he had to leave us so soon and so young. I created this to help his family and his mother through this hard time. This is for his funeral expenses and extra cash for his family. I have used the platform I have to bring awareness to this tragedy and hope to raise the money to help as much as I and we can. Thank you. Justice will be served and you will finally be in peace." There is one update. It's from today and it just says, "Thank you for all the money that has been sent. We've reached over 5,000 within 2 to 3 days. It's so crazy how fast we've been able to raise so much money, and it is so appreciated." I also wanted to use my platform to raise awareness about this case. I'm going to follow it. And it also states on here, Kayla Wright is organizing this fundraiser on behalf of Latrice Banks, who is Dassan Jones' mother. So I'm going to link this GoFundMe in the description box for anyone that feels the need to donate or feels the need to share or just simply wants to check it out. But even if you don't share the video, if you could just share the GoFundMe, there's a simple way to do it. You just hit the share button and you can share it to any platform you have, or just copy the link and paste it in one of your platforms, or just copy the link and send it in a group text. I'm sure it will be much appreciated. But this case is bizarre. The judge that denied that protective order, I'm wondering what he's thinking now, knowing what has happened on the back end. It's shameful that he denied that, because had he allowed that protective order to go through, we wouldn't be here talking about Dassan Jones. But since he didn't, and the protective order was denied, we are here talking about Dassan Jones, unfortunately. So again, thank you to Tiffany Ray for sending this to me. I greatly appreciate it, and I'm going to follow this case all the way on out. Thanks for watching, guys.